What's going on today, Tuck? You good, man?
I'm good, man. I'll be back.
Sounds good, man. I like that background. Yeah. Mike Schroeder, let's go.
What's happening, Nelly?
Let's go, baby. It's a great day, man. How's everything with you?
Just trying to crank out some work. Took a little break so I could go through a little PowerPoint or whatever I got from somebody. So
Nice.
I found out it wasn't the tool, it was the Indian.
That is always my case usually as well.
Yeah. What's going on with you guys? How you doing?
Man, we're good. We're good. Just trying to make it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, for sure. Andrew, what's up, baby?
How are we doing, Josh?
Good, man. Doing good.
I was just going to say, who is it? I was listening to your music and there is a good station, King Harvest Radio on Pandora.
King
You know who
Harvest.
King Harvest is? They do the Dancing in the Moonlight.
No, it's a great song.
Yeah,
We'll pull that up.
you should. You should give it a good listen.
I will. I'll try that out for sure.
You know, there was a time that I was enjoying the Bee Gees, but
Oh,
then King Harvest came on, and
Yeah.
total change.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed.
No,
The Bee Gees.
hey, the Bee Gees are great.
They are great. I couldn't say that when I was in high school because I'd probably get beat up. But
yeah. Andy, I just want to be your everything, man.
Yeah,
Little
me and
Andy,
you both.
little Andy Gibb there for you.
Coach Murphy, Newman, Coach Stone, what's going on?
Good, man. Just I got my little guy here. I'm on mommy duty today because my wife's kindergarten doing that part, but we're still getting better, man.
That's awesome.
Probably gonna shut my screen because I may have to change a few diapers.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Hey, buddy.
that's great. We're just plodding along. Got the kids in the water an hour a day. So we're rotating our pods. Everybody's tested negative so far. Kids are happy to be back in the water. We're happy to see them. We're not sure where we're going, but we've started our journey here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I saw some of the developments up at the swimming pool with the water in and out. Like, what's the construction going on there? The status?
Well, we were promised the outdoor pool, probably because the outdoor pool is the safest place on campus. But long story short, some things that needed to be taken care of in a more timely basis weren't. So the outdoor pool is drained right now, and our kids were rolling with it. Hopefully, we'll get it back. It's heated when we do get it back. So kids will be willing to go outside. I'll be willing to go outside, and we can fit a lot more people. We got 22 lanes out there instead of 12 inside, so we can be much more together and much more productive and all that fun stuff. But I'm not promising anything to this time around.
It's awesome. We'll make some progress. It would be slow, but hopefully we're trending in the right direction there. So.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess it's 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen here. I appreciate everybody hopping on. This is something we wanted to do at the beginning of this semester when we were planning it back in the spring. We were obviously hoping we were going to be in person, but I think this provides us a unique opportunity. We can invite more people. We can have a lot of different opportunities. We just got to frame it that way. So we'll call it performance school, but I don't want it to think about like any one person lecturing and all. It's just kind of a cool place for us to kind of get together. This is kind of agenda I thought for today. I want to keep it at 30 minutes. Please eat your lunch. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things we want to do is we want it to be repeatable. So that's why we put it during the lunch hour. If you get an opportunity to pack your lunch, grab some lunch, like, please do that. Want it to be kind of fellowship here, us share ideas, a lot of things like that. So looking at today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we think maybe this can be. We're going to pass it to John Fleury. He's going to talk a little bit about managing infrastructure of information and maybe across different departments. It's not going to be specific to any one sport or any department at all. It's just going to be broad. Then we want to have a discussion about some things that we've learned during this initial return to campus and return to sport during following COVID, and then just kind of a couple things at the very end. It's very, very informal, so please just throw questions out at any time, and if there's anything we need to stop or move on, we can always do that. So we started thinking about what performance school may be and what we could do. Did not want it to be formal. Don't want it to be like a class at all. Just want it to, like I said a minute ago, to be, very organic in nature for us to get together. bottom line, I want you to think about this amp right here. Imagine we all get together at lunch once every 2 weeks or so. We plug into the amp and we just like jam for 30 minutes. You know, topics will vary. There'll be a lot of different people talking. Maybe we bring people from the outside. Maybe we don't. There's a lot of cool people here on campus that we can kind of engage with this. But I think that it can be a really cool opportunity for us. One of my favorite things is what's called communities of practice. So a COP is basically just kind of a network of learners and an existing coaching everywhere. But basically this network of learners has three things that exist. One is a domain. There's a specific area that we're trying to, pursue. For us, it's winning. It's pushing the brand of Penn State forward. It's developing great moms and dads and leaders in the world. We're going to cultivate that through relationships that we have, obviously, but we can really leverage learning opportunities here amongst different people that we have here on staff. And then finally, this idea of a COP, in order for it to function, it's a development of a shared language and like skill sets across the entire, network. So I think over time we can develop that language so we're all kind of jamming to the same beat, and that'll help us. But the main thing behind a COP is the people, and that's kind of what we want to emphasize. And within this learning community, I hope we can continue and go a lot of different directions. I would like it to be making sure that we can maintain our competitive advantage and our competitive edge. So if there's ever something that's shared in here that may be sensitive, or maybe we share data of some kind, or maybe there's just something that is brought up but somebody doesn't want it to be shared, I would really challenge us all to make sure that we respect that privacy. I think we are recording this. So we can share it amongst our crew. We can share it to people here on Penn State that weren't able to get here. But if there's ever a time that we bring in something sensitive, I do want it to be private if possible. And I think that'll be huge for us to go, and it'll just protect the people here. Okay, so I'm going to pass it now to John Fleury. And with this segment, I want to kind of think about it being called the systems segment. Moving forward, maybe one day we could be talking about a technology system. One day we could be talking about systems in recruiting, travel, anything like that. So it could be a myriad of different topics, but we'll call this systems. I'll pass it to John here. And so John Fleury, he's the Director of Applied Performance and Applied Health and Performance Science here in our department. And he basically manages and operates all of our day-to-day systems and different technology that we have within our system. So I will pass it to John.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Just like Nelly mentioned, we're going to take this time to kind of go over some different things. Like Nelly said, it may be a piece of technology that one of our teams are using across campus, or maybe exploring different ones that are out there. But for today, I really wanted to focus on what's available to everybody. So everybody has access to Microsoft applications. So we're talking about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of these that a lot of us are familiar with. And if you're a Penn State employee, you have access to these for free. So we can use these things for a lot of different things. And one of those is collecting information, right? When in terms of the technical aspect of performance science and sports science, the sexy stuff and collecting data, a lot of times that's tied to expensive technology, but really we can keep it simple in some of our data collection, keep it time efficient, cost effective, and still really get a ton of great information that's actionable that we can inform our practice with. So Nelly, if you could let me share my screen, I'll kind of just quickly go ahead and walk through some things here. All right, am I good there? Good, cool.
Gotcha.
If you log into Office 365 with your Penn State email account, you have access to all these awesome apps right here. Again, you see a lot of the ones you're probably familiar with, Excel, Word. I do want to say that as a staff, Applied Health and Performance Science, we use a ton of these to help us stay organized. So not even necessarily related to anything we're doing from a sports science standpoint. Within our department, we use something like SharePoint in order to help us organize our information. So here it's like a shared drive. It's really similar to the W drive. It allows us to keep all of our files, all of our data. If we want to share research with each other or outside of our department, we kind of do it through there. Big difference is like in the W Drive, some of you may have come across this issue. If you're trying to work on the same document at the same time, sometimes you're not allowed to do that, right? So if I have a document open and Nelly wants to access that document in the W Drive, he may not be able to because I'm open. I have it open and I'm working on it. In SharePoint, right, you can cohesively work on a project within Word, within Excel, within anything together at the same time and communicate. So that's something that we use all the time to help us stay organized and work together on some things. Another thing that we use here is just OneNote. So that's a way for us to keep all of our notes organized and just like we're doing today, sharing information with everyone. This helps us share and share updates, share notes across different teams, stuff that we're learning on here as well. But from a sports science perspective, and some of this stuff can be used no matter what your role is within your team, whether that's operations, a coach. We're going to use sports science as an example, but it can definitely be applied. So the three things we're going to focus on today is information collecting, so data collection, information organization, data organization, and then information display or reporting. Right, so the three things we're going to take a quick look at, we're not going to dive deep, but just a quick look is Microsoft Forms, right, which is going to help us gather, collect subjective data. Then we're going to take a quick look at Excel, which again, not going to dive deep in that because you could spend all day there. And then from a visualization and reporting aspect, we're going to look at Power BI. Just to introduce it, again, not diving deep, just showing examples. So from a Forms perspective, if you click Forms, it'll bring you here to your page and you can create surveys. So this is essentially the same thing as Google Docs, right? So if you're familiar with Google Docs or SurveyMonkey, super similar. It's free. Again, it's easy to create surveys so that way you can collect information, whether that's some of the sports science things we talk about, or even something like if you're trying to plan out ordering food on an away trip, this is a good way to get that information on what your athletes want to order for that trip. So the thing here is, as opposed to Google Docs, when you collect that information, it goes over to Google Sheets, right? And I know a lot of us take that and then we copy and paste all of that information into Excel. So the difference here is we get that information in Forms and it automatically goes into an Excel spreadsheet. So we skip that intermediate step. So when we're looking at some of these different forms, I have an example here. Here's a sample RPE survey, right? So if we're looking at a way that we can monitor and measure workload during a practice or a training session, this is something that we could potentially use to get workload information. If we do not have technology, this could potentially be used as a substitute for that technology. If you do, then it just provides another layer of information. If we're looking at the research, just to clarify, so RPE is rating of perceived exertion. So that's us collecting subjective information, asking our athletes how hard or how difficult they perceive that session to be. So rating of perceived exertion, RPE. They typically give that on a 1 to 10 scale, with 1 being easy, 10 being extremely hard, right? So now the research behind that shows, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just quick, that it could be used as a standalone measure. Again, it's better to used in conjunction with other things, other ways of monitoring, but that's what some of the research says. So in order for us to get that information, we can utilize Microsoft Forms in the form of a survey. So if we create an easy survey that just includes date, how long the session was, and then a scale of 1 to 10. I should have a little picture right here, giving what that scale looks like. But just a scale of 1 to 10, just like we just discussed. And now we have collected that information with Microsoft Forms. It goes right to Excel, which I'll show you an example of later. And then we can use that information to see what our workload is during practice without using any technology. Another example of a survey we like to use is our wellness surveys. So we use the RPE to get an idea of work, of what type, how hard the work was. And now our wellness gives an idea of recovery. So we can create a simple survey on here, again, with names, date, and then we can ask any questions we feel like are relevant to their recovery. So how many hours did you sleep? What was that quality of sleep? Anything about mood, stress, soreness? We definitely suggest keeping it simple and just choosing a few, anywhere from 5 to 10 questions is great, especially right now on the lower end with the athletes coming in and having to answer the survey every single day they step into a facility. We're starting to see a little bit of survey fatigue, right? So anytime you're trying to get some wellness information added to that, we try to keep it as simple as possible and only ask a couple questions there. And then once we gather all the information, like I mentioned, this is an example of where it goes. So within your Microsoft form or within your Microsoft applications, you have Excel Online, and all of your RPE data will just every day add on to each other within an Excel spreadsheet. So within Excel, you can organize your data. This is the data organization piece. You can organize your data, you can graph it, you can display it, you can do a bunch of different things that we already know. I know a lot of us use Excel on a daily basis, but we definitely use it as a big piece of our data organization. And then the last thing to display our data that we talked about, we have Microsoft Power BI. So this is very similar to some of the big software, the athlete management softwares that you see out there. This is just a built-in free version that Microsoft has available to where we can create interactive dashboards with our data so that way we can visually display it. We can use it to monitor workload, monitor wellness over time, and then we can share it and work on it amongst each other and our staff. And then we could potentially use it to share and show athletes what they're doing, how they are with recovery, use it to kind of start some conversations going that way. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to quickly highlight. Again, all this stuff is free, it's time efficient, and it's extremely organized, being able to come in here and use all of these things. So if anyone has any questions, I don't know if we're waiting till the end or if you're comfortable now, Josh, but.
Yeah, no. So the way this is, and the way we brought up at the beginning, is imagine you're at a coach's clinic or a conference and you meet up with some buddies and you spend some time talking about a topic. We have some programming ready, but if we want to spend extra time here, if we want to ask questions, I think that's what we do. So if anybody has any questions at this point, we can definitely spend some time on it. Fleur, can you go through the 3 steps you mentioned a second ago that you break things down into?
Yep. So you mean in terms of the data collection piece?
Yes.
Yep. So again, we're talking about collecting data or information, organizing that data and information, and then displaying or sharing that information. So those 3 steps are what we generally take whenever we're collecting any kind of data. Again, that could be, today we talked about subjective. Hey, how hard was practice today? How many hours did you sleep last night? But those are generally the steps we take in terms of using any piece of technology, whether that's Catapult or Whoop or some force plate stuff. But again, we just wanted to kind of share that this is an available option to everybody, regardless of your resources or what technologies you may or may not have.
Yeah.
Hey, John, I got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yep, go for it.
Can you go back to the Power BI or whatever?
Yep.
Just so you can see it real quick. So I had a question on it when you pulled it up. So you based everything off of, your wellness surveys and stuff like that. Can
Yep.
you take that to like the next level and use Power BI from Excel? Say, for example, if you, for my purposes and everything like that, if you're tracking volume or if you have force place data or something like that, is there a way to take that and convert it to how you have it set up through Power BI?
Yeah, so it's extremely easy to link the data that you have stored in Excel as long as it's in a readable format, like a data table.
Okay.
Yep, and it's organized. Then you can link Power BI over to Excel and pull that data in there, and then use Power BI again to visualize. It's just a little cleaner. It's a cleaner way to organize and display the data. Because sometimes I know, like, once you get a ton of data within Excel and you're trying to, create kind of visuals, sometimes it gets a little messy. But
If they can just spit out, the numbers and everything like that you're inputting, it's a lot easier than doing it manually. Sometimes you're trying to put in formulas in Excel to get calculations out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And once you have it set up, it takes time on the front end to learn and to set it up. But then once you have a system going, you put the data in Excel, you hit say you're doing the form, right? And we're going through the 3 steps, right? Your athletes put their information in for their wellness survey. It goes right into Excel. Your Power BI is already linked to that Excel document. So you just hit refresh. You would refresh your Power BI and it would pull in all the new data. So the only step you would need to take every day would be to refresh and to turn it into a PDF or share it with whoever you wanted to share it with.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, quick question, John, as well. Is this something that Four Winds can use as well? You know how like for our live screens, is this something where like there's an app or anything that it can automatically kind of tick itself over and work live in the background?
That's a great question. Just I'm not super familiar with what Four Winds can do, like from a function standpoint, but I do know. Yeah, go ahead.
Stu, I think it can.
Yeah.
There's different plugins within Four Winds. You're talking about your vertical display monitors. I think there's plugins where you go down and you can insert different topics. I know there's Excel sheets, things like that. I think you can do it with Power BI. It may be something we could talk with Ian about and see if there's a way to do that. But that would be really neat if we could do that.
Because I think this would be sick if this could just have the widget just sit in the background and all you hit is refresh, and it just throws numbers straight up onto the screen. Like just do it every day. Like once we get back from practice and we just export the sports code data, and then Josh can export his Excel data into that. I think it's a really cool visual for the girls to look at.
I think maybe another avenue, and Flurry, we may have to check into this. So the COVID-19 dashboard that the university runs is on Power BI. So I don't know if anybody's seen that link. It is essentially the same thing. So there's just like a, what am I trying to say? A web address that you would type in, and you pull up their dashboard and it gives you all the COVID-19 for Penn State University. We could explore how to potentially do that. So then if it wouldn't tie to Power BI, you would tie it to the URL, and then it would just update based on that. There are steps there that we're not familiar with how to do, but it would be a project we could explore.
With the COVID survey that everyone fills out every day as they enter the building, I actually created that to go through Flow, so it automatically does a lot of that. You don't have to hit refresh, so that's how the athletic trainers get our notifications. And I know Power BI is built into that, so if you have that Excel document somewhere on a OneDrive, you can create a Microsoft Flow. Yeah, it's somewhere there, right on the Power Automate, the one in the middle right. Yep, so if you go there, you can then, any Excel document that's on your OneDrive, you can then create it to automatically, as that Excel document updates, get information into a Power BI.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
And then you could, through Power Automate too, you could even have steps to where it adds, to where it sends directly to your email as well.
Correct, yeah. So like for the athletic trainers for the COVID survey, I've got it sending us a Teams message. So we got messages automatically as someone comes to the building and stuff like that. So yeah, you can have it going really anywhere that you want.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Any other thoughts with some of the Microsoft tools that we have available? So the last thing I'll say about Power BI, so we've been exploring some athlete management systems just for all information, to collect, and some of these run in excess of $60,000 a year. And this is just an opportunity we can leverage a free software to do similar things. So I think it's just a good opportunity. And as with anything, if there's additional questions after, we'll explore those. Just reach out to us. Okay. Fleur, are you good there?
All good.
Okay, so it's 22. We'll hold true with our time here. Just kind of want to spend just a second because I think it's super important. Imagine I mentioned a minute ago, you're at a conference and you sit down and you're writing on a napkin. That's kind of what I want to think about this now. We're just kind of shooting ideas out. many of us are back on campus. Many of us are training athletes. Many of us are experiencing things for the very first time. So from a coaching, teaching perspective, if we can get some thoughts organized around what are some things from a coaching and teaching perspective, how are we providing feedback, instruction from a distance, whether it's from Zoom or even out on the weight room or field? What are some experiences that people have had that maybe you've had success that other people can take and use? And if possible, this is just open forum, just throw some ideas out.
I'm happy to start. I've actually found it quite weird, and not that enjoyable. I like a big close group, and it's been hard because we've been quite separate. So like bringing the girls in and saying, right, you know, ladies, we need to be working on this or talking about this, or here's the language, what we're around the drill. It's been really challenging, but what has been fun as well is we've also come up with new terms like COVID defense. For us is like, we don't play zone defense very well. So for us to play zone defense, it's been COVID defense, right? Like keep your 6 feet. Because if you come inside, you know, you're going to get COVID. Not really, but just creating that visual around, you know, COVID defense has been quite good for the girls, but it's been really challenging. But you know, it is what it is.
That's powerful. I think if you look at some of the research in teaching, oftentimes feedback, especially critical feedback, is best received when you're in close proximity. So that's neat how you've been able to leverage that to your advantage.
One of the things for me that I've been thinking about for a few months is the phrase getting back to basics. I think the longer you're in the sport, whatever sport it is, the more you have, this is what I do, this is why I do it, it works, it's successful, and then you kind of don't really want to stray away from it too much. And I think we all have an opportunity now, because we're in abnormal times, is what the word that I'm going to continue using until things are different. But we're in abnormal times, and so we can try to do some different things. And so we have an opportunity to step outside our own box. I've been in this for 21 years, and it seems like every 4 or 5 years I may try to step out the box and stray away. And I go back and look at my training from 20 years ago, and I was like, what the fuck was I doing? You know, and I think we have an opportunity now to do some of those things. And, you know, if we don't take that opportunity, then we failed ourselves and we failed our athletes.
Great point. It's like a natural reset point for us almost.
Yeah.
What about, I thought somebody said something. So what about, you know, we're always encouraging athletes to just kind of, you know, stay socially distanced, wear your mask and everything like that. What are some strategies people have personally to protect themselves and their families when you go home? Like, are you showering before you go inside? Like, what's some of that going on?
I guess I'm happy to go again, but we've basically created a barrier between the outside and the inside. So we've got a single car garage, and both me and my wife work with our team. So we kind of strip off in the garage before we go in, and then just go up. And she goes into the guest bathroom. I'll go into our bathroom, both shower quick, and just keep all our clothes in the we're germaphobes, so we just keep all our clothes, our work clothes, in the garage and then I'll wash them. But we've been really kind of conscious of it, pretty sensitive to it too. I just feel like we're in a bit of a petri dish right now. So, you know, more so than ever.
It's such a unique situation. You know, I think that's similar to kind of what Dr. Sebastianelli had mentioned on some of the calls where, you know, he had, before he even goes in the house, he's trying to shower before he engages with his wife or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Anything else like that we could all benefit from? Must be kind of similar.
This isn't related to showering or anything. Something we did with our team last Friday, we actually took them to the softball field so we could socially distance. And it was the first time that we were able to be with our entire team, which was a kind of a nice moment. And everybody had masks on. We did all the right things. But what we did instead of having them talk, our coaching staff got up in front, and each one of them spent just a couple of minutes on their why they were there, why they were coaching, what was important to them. And it ended up, I think, being a pretty powerful meeting in that we reminded our student athletes why we're doing what we're doing. To them, that at our whys, nor should their whys be reliant on circumstances, that were the reasons, the pillars that they established, and our whys and our mission is the same no matter what the circumstances. So we kind of took a few minutes to make that point, and the feedback that we got from it was really good. They enjoyed listening to us on why we were showing up on deck every day, and kind of reinforce things they already knew. But I think it served as a good use of our time, trying to keep things relevant to what we're doing right now, not trying to look down the road of what our season may look like or what it may not look like, because we don't know. So just a thought. It was something that we felt pretty good about for the most part, because the team felt good about it.
It's almost like you're engaging them, and then on the flip side, that protects staff, that protects each one of them, because now I know your why. Carl, I'm sure that's kind of a little bit more your area.
Yeah. So generally, what Tim was just describing that they did helps to either build, rebuild, or reinforce a bond. And human beings are wired for connection, and too often our young student athletes can forget that our coaches have been where they are, but the athletes have not been where the coaches are yet. And so that's an automatic divide, and you can start to shrink the room or shrink the world by just connecting on a personal level like that. And it humanizes the leaders that are pulling out their best from the student athletes on a regular basis. So what you'll find is when you return to whatever the next normal looks like, having done something like that and having not just a one time, but periodically, and reinforcing that, what you're going to return to is going to be exponentially better than what you could have had this not happen.
That's a really good point. It's easy I would imagine for me if I'm an athlete, to know my why, but not to even have perspective that people above me or the coaches have a why as well. That's interesting. So it is 12:30. We'll stay on here for a second more, but if anybody needs to pop off, please feel free to come and go. The $1 million question, I guess, for us, when I say us, Flurry and myself, as we're pertaining to like studying how we load and train athletes, is a $1 million question for a lot of people, and it's without a specific date. How are people planning and managing workload? So, like for us, from a sports science perspective and a training perspective, it's often advantageous to have a date and work backwards. Now I know where I'm going, and I progress upward. So, without that date and with a moving target potentially, what are some strategies people are making to, one, move our athletes forward, but two, to protect?
I think, always start at where you need to be, whatever championship meet, I guess indoor for us, we have uncertainty with that, and move backwards, still have a template. But like I said, I'm going to go backwards, and we're going to do some elementary stuff and, treat them like they're in a high school track camp for some time, just kind of move through that and get some functional movements back again, and do some things over the last few years that I wanted to do, but I just didn't think I had time to do. And so now I will go back to doing that stuff. And, so not having a date isn't that big of a deal for me now, because my season doesn't start until January. And so I'm still going to do my normal 3-week load, 1-week unload, you know, just as I've done in the past. It doesn't really affect me as much until we get into, if we have a season, until we start in January and we do have a championship to prepare for. And then I can always work backwards from there.
One of the things that we're doing some conditioning stuff, but because we don't have any competitions looming, and I think we do this on a yearly basis, a seasonal basis, but because feel like we have a little bit more time, we've gone back. I talked to them a lot about their skill set and their curiosity. So in reference to their skill set from a swimming standpoint, trying to get them to understand how they create speed in the water through their alignment, with what they're doing with their legs, with their catch. Most of them have a general idea of what they do, but I think they've got to gain a better understanding of what they actually do before I can get them to make a change. And then we're trying to introduce some basic things that we always need to reinforce, but also trying to get them to understand that now is the time to make a technical change with what they're doing, because our volume is low, and so the specifics that we're trying to focus on is how can they do one of two things from a functional standpoint: create more speed in the water by doing something different with their stroke in those three categories, or how can they make their strokes more effective? Meaning, how then can they maintain that speed? It's a struggle with our athletes, but I'm trying to get them to understand that if they make the changes, or if they don't make the changes, then 2 months from now, we'll have gone nowhere from a technical standpoint. We'll still be working with the same horsepower. And so we're trying to use this time, be a little bit more patient, and get them to understand their strokes a little bit more, and then create some stroke changes that will improve their capacity for speed or improve their ability to maintain their speed.
Coach, how technical are you getting with some of that with them? I mean, we have smart athletes here, but like, how technical and how deep are you getting as you're teaching some of that technical work?
Was that for me, Josh?
Yes, sir.
Well, their technique basically is going to put a cap on their potential for speed. So, like I said, I try to keep it simple. I'm not giving them multiple things to change. We start with their alignment first and foremost, because that's positioning them for their potential for speed. We look at what they're doing, get them to look at what they're doing with their legs. Most of them know how to work hard with their legs, but from a functional standpoint, they can do some things different. They know how to kick hard, but they don't necessarily try to teach them different gears, so they can control their speed more effectively. Most of them, as it is with most performance, you get to a point where you end up trying too hard, and that doesn't allow for improvement. And then the most critical part of the stroke is the catch, where they're hand inners and where they're actually creating an anchor in the water. How they get to that point, but again, that's the function of their body alignment, and the function of their legs kind of sets that up. And then do we need to realign where they're trying to get that catch and the timing of that? So it's very technical, but it's simplistic in the way I described, because I can't reinvent the wheel with them, but I can get them to be more effective at how they create speed. And then in some cases, just get them more efficient.
Thanks, Coach. So what I'm hearing is, given the potential unknown, we're still working towards specific dates that we do know. And we're working, if I'm hearing correctly, on fundamentals and being technically sound. Anything else anybody would like to contribute?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've been, very successful with is being really efficient with our time. These kids have been dying to get on the pitch and get at it, and it was amazing to see the first week when we had them back on campus. And they were kind of in their separate groups for the first couple of weeks. And then once we got the full squad back together, it was such a cool moment just to see them all on the pitch together, right? But then it was also on our back to be really conscientious of what we need to work with, what we need to do, what we need to achieve. And I agree with what you said, Tim, about just being focused on the fundamentals, and stripping it back to kind of just let's start from bare bones and work up, because if we think about it, we didn't even get to play in the spring. So it was, for us, it was being that fundamental base, but being competition based, wanting them to come back to practice, being hungry to practice. And these kids are so competitive. And that's where, we sat down as a staff, Shah, be myself, Lauren, Carl, Adriana, Nick, and kind of really focused on that. All right, what do we want to get out of it? What does it want to look like? What do we want it to look like? And it was really good. Like, we've cut out our in-between times, in between drills, where we're usually talking for maybe 5 minutes. We cut it down to about 3 minutes. So it's a bit more, it's really efficient. And I think in turn, the girls are actually liking it, because instead of being on the pitch for 2.5 hours, they're on the pitch for about 2 hours now. And they're coming back to practice wanting more, which is, it's good to see. It's good to feel. I feel like we've got our finger on the pulse. So, that I think that's important.
That's awesome to hear. So we're sitting here, we're about the 40-minute mark. We can we keep this rolling, but as we're kind of finishing up, just kind of in summary, just throw out a couple of things as it pertains to maybe what this may look like as we move forward. What the different platforms, things that we could potentially talk about, guests that we could have come in. I'd challenge people, if anybody's interested in sharing something, please push it our way, and we can get it on the agenda and schedule it. As part of the community of practice, I think it would be beneficial for us to think about. I'd like to think about creating a shared language. So I think what's the first thing would be, what is performance? I think that's the end product that we're all trying to move toward, regardless of what sport we're in, or regardless of what field. We're trying to improve performance. But what is performance? So I think before we get together next time, maybe if we could put some thought into that, maybe we can have a conversation about that. And physically, I'm of the opinion that the product that we can put on the field, on the court, in the pool, is really the environment that the athletes are living in. So the best way to do that is if we can make sure that we are healthy. So I'd like to challenge everybody to, in the next week and 2 weeks, be active more days than you're not. And then what we're going to do is shoot for every other week on Wednesday. We'll start with noon, just because it fit in some people's schedule, but we can adjust that every time, depending on what people want to do. But let's shoot for every other week, and we'll kind of keep this rolling. But we'll keep this on here a little bit if people want to stay on, and we can continue to talk. But if not, definitely free to go. And I really appreciate everybody kind of being around and coming to this first one. I think it's something that we can really grow, and we can kind of collaborate and share some ideas. So really appreciate everybody.
Josh, too, I did want to just reiterate, we want this to where it's not just us presenting something every week. We want to reach out and have people from different sports, from different departments come on and share something they may think is valuable for everybody to hear, that they can use and grow and learn from. Just like for me, selfishly right now, I was thinking when Coach Murphy was talking about swimming technique, right? That made me think of, okay, Tuck's on here. He's a sprint coach. He knows a lot about sprinting and getting athletes faster and sprint technique. How can we take some information that he may be able to share and apply that to our field sport athletes when we're talking about speed development, especially right now when this is this semester is developmental because we don't have competitions. It's a great time to develop our athletes. Improving speed is one of those things. And speed is important for damn near every sport on campus, right? So just me selfishly thinking ahead, that's something I would like to hear in the future.
Tuck, maybe you could reach out to Dan Chisena and we'll talk about speed development and how it relates to the football field. It's a nice hot topic right now.
Oh, it relates to getting the NFL contract, right? So he's my 9th one in 20 years, so I think I'm doing something right.
We'll straddle that fence eventually, get some more to share.
Absolutely.
One team, baby.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, last thing I'll say is we're trying to make things actionable and being able to share to a lot of things. So we're trying to tape as many things as we can. We're throwing them up on YouTube. Things that are sensitive that give Penn State a competitive advantage, we try not to share. We'll keep it more internally. But we are putting some things on how to run different technology, on how to do certain topics, and we'll put it up on our social media. If there's something specific that people are interested in, please let us know, and we'll try to organize some of our work toward that too. But really appreciate everybody being here, and look forward to getting together again.
Nelly, I'm going to steal you for a second.
Okay, yep, I'll be on here. We'll keep this rolling if anybody wants to stay, but really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
One, you also have something going on with your sound, I think.
All right, guys.
What'd you say, D?
The sound is messed up.
Yeah, it's got like muffled. I don't know. Is there something covering your mic?
Sound like a muffled robot.
How's that sound like?
Same. I don't know.
The Russians are coming.
Yeah. That's it. Just throw the computer out the window. You don't need it. My question is on Zoom. So I had a kid talk to me today that she had back-to-back Zoom calls. I'm looking over the PDF that you sent. So there was a YouTube that you put together for neural and metabolic activation and recovery. Is it touched on in that? If not, you don't have to. Just a question I have.
Can you hear me now that I have my?
It's still muffled.
Boy.
I know.
Can't hear me at all.
I mean, we can hear you. It's just kind of like.
No, we can hear you. It's just
ignore it.
It's a little echo. At the beginning of the video, it was fine. It just changed a little bit midway.
I got you. In that specific video, I don't believe we addressed. Working with Zoom, we focused more on that one, basically on activating for a practice per se. Given the nature of COVID, where we don't have activation work in the weight room, we don't have recovery cold tubs always readily available. We try to put that out. So just things you can do at home, being stimulating or relaxing. And that was more targeted toward, like, if I have a speed day, my central nervous system is on 10, I need to be able to calm it down. Or if I have a conditioning day on a field sport, I need to refuel. But I did not address that. It could be something we can explore.
Awesome. Thank you. I will leave you. Best of luck with your mic. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Nelly, that's something that we're just in week 1, and I've got the throwers on the track and field team, and we're just kind of surveying who's in person and how much Zoom. It's 90-95% Zoom. So just getting a little bit of just a soft verbal assessment of what are we doing? Are we laying, sitting, standing? How are we working through that kind of rotation? And we're just kind of, thinking out loud, talking about how I'm trying to get them to rotate that as often as possible. Glute activation, 5 air squats in between, 2-minute walk, restroom break, that type of stuff to break it up, because they're used to walking maybe a mile or 2 before they get to me in the afternoon. And currently they're, differing levels of, activity before so maybe that's something good for us to look into, or you guys to cover, and then you can blast it out to all of us. Because
no, that's a great point, and I think it would continue to get, I don't want to say worse, but it's going to continue to mount.
For sure.
Where we're sitting, and even for us too. I think that's a good point for us. We're typically moving around, weight room, out on the track, out on the field, and here we are on a computer. So we'll cover that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That might be a good one for us in one of these sessions to do some brainstorming, because there's a lot of stuff that a bunch of us have figured out. Some of it may actually be worth sharing. Some of it actually might not be, but just because you figured something out doesn't mean it's good. But just, thinking about things that we know about eye movement and attention control and fatigue when your eyes don't blink nearly as much. So being more intentional with the blinking, being more intentional with the hydration, just having the discipline to be able to shift your eyes away and then back so that you don't become hypnotized by the screen. And then even the contrast of, like, if your room's dark but your screen's bright, you're going to wear out your eyes faster than if everything's bright. So I think there's a bunch of different things that we could tie in that don't involve movement, and then absolutely add in the necessity of movement. You've heard me, Nelly, say in the early days, I looked like an idiot in my house because between every call, I picked up 2 kettlebells and just started wandering around. But it was something to try to get the blood going, and then work on the posture piece of it. Because most human beings, their posture starts to slip regardless of how good the posture is when they start. You put them 30 minutes in, there's somebody slouching. We've all done that. So.
Great point. I think we can definitely hit on that. Maybe we have you and Adriana just talk about that maybe sooner than later on here, or
Yeah, I think that's one of those topics that you take all the different aspects of who we got on the screen right now. Adriana absolutely can. She's got some really good points about how to work that breaking up stuff and everything. But when you don't have the opportunity when you're not in charge of your schedule, you just have to keep complying with the schedule. That's a different twist on that as well. So I think a collaborative discussion would be useful.
Great point. Great point.
I appreciate that, guys. I hadn't had a chance to officially meet you, Nelly, so I just wanted to stay on and say, hey, I must have had a bad email address, or maybe we're not following on Twitter or something. There's been, I think, 3 different instances where you've retweeted or something like that. And I've been like, oh, hey, I know that guy, or, oh, hey, that's a topic that, I went to his presentation as well. So I've been trying to soft make friends for about 2 months now. So
yeah, it was great to meet you. I apologize. My voice sounds like
that's all good. I'm sure we'll get caught up.
Yeah.
10 feet away here, within the next few weeks. But I didn't know about the Office 365 I didn't know that. So I got a personal computer and a work computer, and instead of me hauling them back and forth, I'm assuming I can maybe do that on the personal computer as well.
Yes. All you have to do is sign into with your Penn State, and it updates seamlessly.
Yeah. I've been just using Google Docs for everything with Excel and Word, but I didn't know about the survey as well. So are people utilizing that for basically? We trialed Whoop bands for a year and didn't have the manpower to facilitate the data, so we got rid of it because it was cost and benefit. Are people using that the survey to basically get that data?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
This is for one team here. This is so basically what we've tried to do is set up. This would be one. They would select their name, and then it goes to the next screen, and then they would just put their information right in there, just like the Google survey.
Yeah.
And we have another one for RPE following. Personally, since we've got involved, we do all of our staff work. So things that we are out on campus or out at practice field, something pops up and I don't have a pen, I can put it in a survey. It goes in it. So, we are using it for probably things that it's not even designed for. It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's those 2 documents are basically preloaded into that survey.
It's basically just a template.
Okay.
You select, type in your questions, and then it'll get you to, you can share it via email or text. And then basically I just opened it up in email, and then on my iPhone, if you have an iPhone, I just click here.
Yep.
And then put on go to load on home screen.
Okay.
Add to home screen, and then it creates an icon.
Oh,
right here.
Sweet. Yeah. Okay. The icon's really big, having that widget there so we're doing a daily symptoms report, and it's like beating people over the head to get them to do it by, X o'clock. But if they had that app on their home screen and a reminder, probably easier.
It's super seamless.
Okay, cool. I may follow up with you on that stuff, but I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Great to meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, man, I'm gone. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. Appreciate you being here, Coach.
Absolutely.
Mike, brother, how you doing, buddy?
Oh man, how you holding up?
Good. Allegedly, my voice is Sounds like a robot, but good.
It's all right, I hear you though. Dude, how's everything been going with other teams and stuff like that?
Good. You know, we're being remote more than anything right now. So I haven't seen really anybody. But just, we're trying to get active, and then we're worried with some of the guys over at East area, you know, we would cross-contaminate everybody. So we're just like, we're going to try to just be more remote.
Yeah.
How are you guys, man? How are y'all training?
Doing all right. I mean, it's been different or whatever because, you know, our season got cut short. I'm used to always having my team around all summer. Freshmen come in the summertime.